television network TSPN. And now TSPN News with Tom Slavik. Comprehensive news because in today's world, you need more than just sound bites. TSPN streaming on the World Wide Web and now on demand at TSPNTV.com.
And welcome to TSPN TV. I'm Supervisor Richard Forster. I'm filling in for Tom Slavik today while he takes a few days off for the Thanksgiving holidays. So we're going to go right into our Board of Supervisors pre-meeting report for November 25th, 2014. Starting off the meeting, usually I don't go into the consent agenda, but there are items on there that are interesting. Most of them are passed without much discussion. The reason we do that is because there are items that can go without discussion and just be passed by a vote of the board. Some items are pulled off the consent agenda sometimes. I don't intend to pull this one off, but I do want to make you aware under item 8, general correspondence on the consent agenda, the notice of findings and proposed rulemakings from the State Fish and Game Commission, and this is relative to a petition to list the gray wolf, Canis lupus, to the list of endangered species under the California Endangered Species Act. This is the same thing that's been done in other states, starting out in the way back in the west, Midwest, with Wyoming, Montana. They've gone to Idaho, and now they've come out to the West Coast. They're trying to, and they will, list these species of wolf. Most of the time, these species are not native to California. They're bigger wolves that they brought down from Canada, and to tell you the truth, they are just a horrible detriment for our wildlife. Our native deer, our native elk in our state and other states cannot compete against these packs of wolves. They're bigger wolves, and they're able to cause much more torment to our deer population, our elk populations, and other species. So I think this is a big mistake. I know at least one other board member and possibly others believe it's a big mistake to bring these wolf species into California. Ever since Dances with Wolves was shown on TV, people have a love affair with wolves. But you need to get out there, and if you're a hunter, you know this. If you're not a hunter, you need to watch some films of what wolf packs do to deer and elk populations. So I'll leave it at that. One other thing, we have a decision that came out Friday on the temporary injunction that was filed in the case of Pine Grove Business Alliance versus the County of Amador, et al. Del Rapini. And what people need to know is on Friday, Judge Hermanson heard that case and ruled in the favor of Del Rapini to and the county's favor, to not hold that injunction in place. So the construction can start up again. I don't think much construction was delayed there, but in this case it will go on now to full hearing down the road. But that was the decision of Judge Hermanson, whether to leave that stay or the injunction in place so that it would stop all construction on that site. Now the construction can continue. We'll come back, as I said, for a hearing. Judge Hermanson will hear the facts, and what I understand the basis for their request is violation of CEQA. It's also violation of the county's, citing the violation of the county's zoning ordinances and allowing the construction to occur on a C2 site when it should be C1 zone. So that will remedy itself through the courts now. On to our board agenda. The first item up will be a presentation by Mr. Al Lennox of American Legion Ambulance. This will be made to the Department of Public Works for Amador. Now, I tried to get some heads or tails out of this from Supervisor Novelli. He was unwilling to say what it was, so it's going to be a surprise to public as well as the board members. So we'll see what happens there. Next item up will be recognition and a presentation to a group of young students, and this is regarding the 2014 El Dorado Forestry Challenge. We had a group of 6 students from Amador High School participate in the El Dorado Forestry Challenge. that was held at Leone Meadows Camp near Grizzly Flat, California, October 22nd through the 25th. This is an opportunity for young students to show what they know and to learn about forestry practices, and we're talking best forestry practices. What is best for the environment? I know that some of the pictures we have showed students actually measuring the circumference of trees and trying to learn the forestry steward practices. They're going to make a presentation to our board at our meeting on Tuesday the 25th. We'll also have a presentation on the retirement of Deputy Ray Marchant, and this is after 12 years of service to Amador County. You might say, why do a resolution after only 12 years? Well, most of these people have long histories of law enforcement careers in other places. Mr. Marchant started out earning his Bachelor of Science degree in Information System Management. So see, that can take you into a Sheriff's Department or law enforcement career from the University of San Francisco in 1998. Graduated with a master's degree in public administration, and there he started his career in law enforcement 1974 as a campus police officer at San Francisco City College. 77, returned to law enforcement in 93, working for the City of Galt, public records. So in between that period of being a law enforcement officer, he had other goals that he was trying to achieve in other areas. He was a reserve police officer and code enforcement officer for the City of Galt, and in 1994 completed his post-basic peace officer training at the City of Galt, San Joaquin Delta College, came to the City of Sutter Creek, and then subsequently to the Amador County Sheriff's Office. So we're going to wish Ray well in his retirement. We have a presentation regarding the hospice of Amador and Calaveras counties, and this is actually a resolution that was brought forth by Supervisor Plaz. And the basis for this is, an audit that was conducted, and this was a walk-on, unannounced audit conducted by two employees of the state of California, contracted by Medicare to perform a major audit of our hospice of Amador and Calaveras, as well as probably other agencies like them, other nonprofits. And what this shows, and Supervisor Plaz wanted to bring this forward, is that they need their certifications to be able to operate because they're dealing with people who are gravely ill, and with that they have to have certain accreditations, and they have medical staff, doctors and nurses that are involved with hospice. Well, they got a clean bill of health in all of this from the state audit, and I think Supervisor Plaz just wants to give them credit for getting that clean bill of health on a walk-in unannounced interview, and that means they can continue to operate and do good things in Amador and Calaveras counties. So kudos to Hospice of Amador and Calaveras. We'll have Nina Machado in to go through the Amador County Community Assessment. This is in a book that she's going to bring in, but it's really a good assessment of where we're at in Amador County. Just some of the things they look at are where are our teens in Amador County as far as drug use, alcohol use, and a plethora of other things that were asked. And what it gives you an indication of is how well we're doing in Amador County versus other counties, how well our school district in Amador County is doing versus other schools. It looks at things like falls, things like obesity, physical activity, veterans, longevity. So a wealth of information here that we should take to heart, and hopefully our school district looks at it, because there's some issues there that I think they could learn from, and some issues that they could try to improve on, as well as many other areas in the county. We have a resolution next accepting the canvass of the 2014 general election and declaring certain candidates elected. This was brought forth by Kimberly Grady, our Registrar of Voters, and this is a required action by state law that the Board of Supervisors declare this declaration of election of certain candidates. As people might know, we've already done that with 3 water agency directors that were uncontested in their elections. This will involve all of the other races, city council, all the people in the unincorporated and incorporated area of the county. So that will come before us. APAL Humane Society will be in with Susan Manning at the lead to request the budgeted amount of $15,000 be awarded to APAL to support the low-income spay-neuter program for Amador County residents. That's what our board has designated it for. APAL also runs a program called Bring Joy to Your World and Dogs and Cats. So it's a program that's probably being adopted in more than just Amador County, but a great way to have these young friends to people adopted, dogs and cats. I know I have a full household, and anyone who doesn't is missing out, because dogs and cats bring a lot of joy to people, and that's what their advertisement and such trying to show. The APAL report will also talk about their expenses, specifically for the spay-neuter program, the certificates, low-income, feral cats, kittens, and pit bulls. Ms. Manning has a pie chart that will be presented to the board and show the percentage of expenses that these go to. In this case, the certificates and low income are the highest areas, I believe. But anyway, there's a lot more to look at there. And in addition to APAL, I'll give you some other news. When we come back at this point, we have to take a break, and we'll be right back with TSPN.
You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.
And this is Supervisor Richard Forster. We're back with TSPN TV with the Board of Supervisors pre-meeting report. One more thing on the APAL report that I was giving you. On APAL, the board of APAL is asking to run a shelter promotion for $25 for selected shelter animals, and that will be, of course, for adoption of those animals. We just had the 999 program for kittens. That was very successful, and we expect this to be successful as well. Next up, we have an item on our agenda with a very generous donation from the Nella Burge Trust for animal control of $18,000, and this will go specifically to help fund the construction of barns and stables for our animal shelter, which we are missing at this time. We have everything for cats and dogs, but we don't have much for the bigger animals that come in, everything from cows and sheep, horses, pigs. I adopted a potbelly pig there one time, so we need a little bit better for out there. As I understand it, this $18,000 will go along with the money that's already sitting in a donation fund of about $34,500, and the Amador Community Foundation has $36,000 in an account there for the animal shelter, so all of this will go towards good use. We have an item put on by our Community Development Director, Aaron Brusatori, to address our 2014 RTP, or Regional Transportation Plan, Capital Improvement Project List. What this is looking forward to is how much money we've been putting into the RTP. County and the cities have been dedicating all of their funds that come in from the state towards this RTP in a regional plan. What we're looking at now at the pushing of Supervisor Plaz is possibly a better way to do it, is since our roads have been declared the worst in the state for the second year in a row, possibly taking 40% of that STIP money, county money, putting it into road rehabilitation, whether that be new roads or fixing sections of roads. But we'll talk about the amount, which is over the next 20 years is $4.722 million. Not very much when you look at the big picture, but enough money to do a lot of good work as far as road rehabilitation in the county and the city domains. And then next up, we have a resolution And this has already been passed by our board, but it will be discussed again because there are still boards of supervisors that have not passed this, but it's from the Rural County Representatives of California, or RCRC, talking about a resolution that recognizes the inadequate forest management and wildfire prevention activities on federal lands within California. So this will be discussed at our board as well. The California State Association of Counties is asking our boards to put together a resolution, which we have in our packet, which will address the 2015 spending measures for the payments in lieu of taxes, or what they call the PELT program, and the Secure Rural Schools program, the SRS program. Both of these programs bring considerable amount of money into our county. You're talking about $500,000, about $600,000 for the Secure Rural Schools program, and a little over $100,000 for the PELT program to our county. The only problem with that PELT program is we hit the wrong 3-year average of when they were figuring out how much money counties would get. That's right at the time that basically spotted owl hit our area and our logging went down considerably on the federal forest lands. But we still get money in our county of that Secure Rural Schools program money. The school district gets half of the money, the county gets half of the money, and then that money within the county has to be split up a number of different ways, Title I, II, or III programs. But with that, this is going back to Congress again, and SESAC is asking our state representatives, Senators Boxer, Senator Feinstein, and Representative for Congress, Tom McClintock, to support these measures. And I think they have all supported those every year, but unfortunately this comes back every year because Congress has not addressed this and taken it up, so there's a long-term plan in place. We have 2 public hearings on our agenda for the board. The first is for capital facilities fees annual disclosure and review for 2013-14. This is an item that comes back every year. The recommendation this year is to increase the capital facilities fee by 3% based on the consumer cost of inflation index, and that annual disclosure would be effective January 1st, 2015. This does have to happen every year. It has to have a lengthy study that has to be done, and so that you have a nexus, a clear nexus to the fees that are being asked for and to the capital facilities fees, not only the amounts but to the areas that they go to. So John Hopkins, from our General Services Department will bring this in, and the board will review the increase of 3% that he's asking for in this. I know in past years, I don't think we've taken it as high as 3%, but you base it based on the consumer price index, and that's what we'll be looking at on the 25th of this month. Last item up is a certificate of merger and abandonment that's being requested by George Allen from our surveying department. And this is for abandonment of a 10-foot wide public utility easement in the Buckhorn area. These items usually have been vetted out very well by our surveying department, and there's not a whole lot of question to them, and I kind of expect that to be the case when this comes before our board. I do want to bring up one other item. The California State Association of Counties just had their annual conference. At that conference, we elect our officers each year. I have been the second vice president of the association, and I was elected to be the first vice president of the association, along with Supervisor Vito Chiesa to be the president of SESAC. And with that, Supervisor John Joya will become past president, and we move down the road for this next year. Things we'll be working on are, as usual, things that come out of our committees, the Housing, Land Use, Transportation Committee, SESAC Indian Gaming Working Group. We have policy changes that are taking place, but basically what's going on there is you're still looking at the karst area decision that came out of the Supreme Court, and SESAC is always keeping a watchful eye along with our consultants and our lobbyists in Washington on what is happening as far as potential legislation that could either be a quick fix or a comprehensive fix. Supervisor Dianne Feinstein indicated last year when the officers met her that she needs help on this issue. That she is one that's advocating for a comprehensive fix, would be better for everyone. It would not open the floodgates to every tribe out there to have a casino. And you might wonder, why does everybody want a casino? Well, it's going to get to a point where we have so many casinos that tribes may not want them, but right now that's not the case. And the number one means of self-sufficiency for tribes, according to the Department of the Interior, is Indian gaming. So that's why we're going down this road, is that our federal government interpretation, and let's face it, it's not a Republican or Democrat issue. Both sides take money from Indian tribes, and both sides advocate for these issues. The ones, as in California, that don't want it are the tribes that already are in place and already have casinos. You can understand why. Other things that came up at this conference were Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program. This is coming out of the state, the greenhouse gas and the carbon credits tax that's being charged. All that money's coming down the pipe now. As you know, or may not know, Governor Brown has borrowed $500 million of that money to go towards financing part of the high-speed rail. But there are other monies in there. They're not allocating very much, but there's money that they want to allocate towards conservation, ag land conservation. We have the Williamson Act. They're not recognizing the Williamson Act program. They'd rather do it through a conservation easement type of program. There's not a lot of money here. I'm not sure it's really worth the small counties trying to go after that money, because you have to have the administration behind it or hire a consultant to do all the documentation necessary. And in these parts of this program, it really doesn't make a lot of sense, and you have to find that person or entity from the public sector excuse me, that wants to finance some of these purchases. Also, on the Clean Air Legacy Program, that was reported by Alan Abbs from the Air Pollution Control Officers Association. A big one you might want to take note of is exploring the road usage charge in California. We had a representative from Caltrans and a representative from county government discussing this. The RUC, as they refer to it, the road usage charge, or you might often hear of it called the pay-to-drive tax. They already have a pilot program in Oregon on this pay-to-drive, and they are exploring charging you for each mile you drive. Right now, it appears to be on state highway. I'm sure it'll be on county highways and city highways in the future, but right now they're talking about state highway. The reason they're talking about this is due to the revenue loss due to increases in fuel economy. So you have cars that mean better fuel economy, so people are apparently driving, they're driving less on the highway, but they're not paying as much at the pump because they don't have to fill up as much. With that, increased fuel efficiency so that they don't have to fill up as much, the vehicle miles traveled growth from basically increase in population is going up. So our roads are being used more is what they're saying. The money they're receiving at the pump on the gas tax is not enough. My contention is if they use that money they get from the gas tax from the pump appropriately, it would go a lot further than what they're using it for now. But with that, you might want to pay attention to this because they're investigating it. They have passed Senate Bill 1077. It was signed into law by Governor Brown on September 29th. So they have a committee already established to look at this and might be coming your way in 2017. That's all the time I have today. So from TSPN TV, the Supervisor Richard Forster, and we'll talk to you next time.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.